Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. The main theme of the new, modern and state-of-the-art armed missile air defense system is the infrared-guided IRIS-T, Infrared Imaging System (TAIL), Air Defense Armed Missile Destruction System, which is designed on the basis of the air-to-air missile based on the same name. In structures that have the status of a launcher, it can have a wheeled, manned 8x8, or tracked chassis, BVS-10 amphibious all-terrain armored vehicle. It can hold 8 container units in 4 guide or missile weapon systems. The air missile defense system, which will have a large chamber, looks like it will have interesting technical evenings and features. This modern, new, and state-of-the-art missile air defense system, which has a number of general features and structures, has medium and small radius differences in its internal structure. The IRIS-T SLM allows to hit the main targets up to 40 kilometers from the target, and in the shorter counterparts of the SLS, up to 25 units. The main sensor of the Armed Missile Attack Air Defense System is the Australian CFAR GBMMR radar technology, which includes a 3-dimensional effective phased array radar (APAR) structure. It is also possible to use the German TRML-4D radar, Hensoldt, which has a range of up to 250 kilometers, which allows detecting the main targets at a distance. This shows the latest developments of the perspective of the new technology. The Armed Missile Attack Air Defense System was introduced to the world as the latest modern technological product as of 2014, and Sweden is the only user of the Armed Missile Attack Air Defense System as of 2019 has become. The German government has granted the necessary permits for the export of 23 Armed Missile Attack Air Defense Systems to Egypt. With this situation, Germany demonstrates the fact that new, state-of-the-art, modern technology air missile defense systems have been opened for trade. Immediately after the effective and successful combat offensive operation of the HIMARS military missile rocket air defense attack systems, the Russian armed military units were deprived of the supply of weapons and personnel from the occupied Crimean territory. This was recorded by the grouping of military armed units into ensembles called Kakhovka, known to wide circles by this name. They believe that this situation is a great opportunity, a plan to retake the black territory of Ukraine from its invaders, who are subordinate to the Russian military armed troops. According to the statements of the military armed units, their statements, the situation in the territory of the Kherson settlement, the point of the unit, which has been occupied for some time, is considered extremely problematic. In a big and terrible way, HIMARS destroyed almost all major bridges, Antonivsky Railway, Highway, and Nova Kakhovka bridges, the statement, information, announcement text reads. The army groups affiliated to the Russian military armed units are trying to maintain their continuity in the region with various methods. The grouping of the military armed units of the Kakhovka into an ensemble shared with the world public opinion that only pedestrian crossings remain just that, without breaking their structure. The battle line, which is experiencing wide-scale developments every day, has aroused wide-scale repercussions in the world press as a result of the developments that have not decelerated. The support of weapons and personnel of the army attached to the Russian military armed units from the Black Territory of the Crimea, October reinforcements were interrupted by this situation. For Ukraine, this development is a tremendous and spectacular opportunity to regain their black lands once again, he said in the review article, in his data, and his text. The new fresh defeat of the Russian military armed forces in this regard, on the other hand, caused wide-scale repercussions both in Russia and around the world. How Russia will reverse this situation in which it is in, its moves are also eagerly awaited. Wherever it is, the fact that the whole world is pro-Ukrainian in the Russian-Ukrainian war and that Ukraine is supported in various ways and situations draws attention as the biggest obstacle to Russia's invasion attempt. The military armed forces of Ukraine located in the southern region of the country, the residential units, regions, many stages of the attack against reason by giving the armed forces the Russian military movements to start the system which is connected to the invaders is a move that violates the first line of defense. These military armed units belonging to Ukraine reveal the codes of unexpected resistance in front of the Russian invasion attempt. This operation of Ukraine and the financial and logistical support of the countries of the world to Ukraine in various ways are causing great difficulties to Russia, and it seems that it will continue to do so. Natalia Humeniuk, press and media spokeswoman of the Operational Command South, made statements to leading news agencies in the framework of this issue. Southern Operational Command Press media spokeswoman Natalia continues for a long time. In particular, the issue focused on was due to exhausting the enemy, depriving it of the ability to advance, and waiting for settlements located under occupation. Supply all kinds of additional reinforcement channels, and they shut down Russia, stating that South JFC Press media spokesperson Natalia Humeniuk, after that they would continue with its activities at full speed, they will never stop, and eventually they would succeed, he added. We have launched counterattack military unit movements from many sides in our own defense and in various areas of our responsibility that concern us, and we have destroyed the enemy's first defensive military order structure. Of course, we will not make any efforts to name these aspects, he said, making important statements about the agenda. Natalia Humeniuk, press and media spokesperson of the Southern Operational Command, shared with the world public opinion that the military armed units affiliated to their groups should not continue without stopping and that they are fighting honorably. As already described, on the night of August 29, 2022, explosions of various armed attacks were heard in the settlement of Kherson and around the local area. A military unit belonging to and owned by the occupying military armed units was extensively damaged. As a result of this attack, the enemy military armed units, which received many damages, made extremely important moves with this method of war strategy. It is able to enter the area where enemy soldiers lose their march extremely quickly due to the fact that they stop for a short time in the areas they enter. The strength of the military armed troops of Russia is decreasing day by day. As a result of this decrease, the invasion effort they are making on the Black territory of Ukraine is getting weaker and weaker. As a result of this weakening, they cannot ensure their regional permanence in the territories they have entered and occupied. It is only a matter of time before Ukraine takes the lead in the war through the efforts of the Ukrainian military armed forces and due to the support of countries with a pro-Ukrainian attitude to war around the world. The fractious voices against Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia are becoming louder and louder. The process of occupying the territory of Ukraine is becoming weaker and weaker, since even in its own government there are cracking voices. The Russian military armed forces, which have suffered both material and spiritual wounds, expect to be supported by Russia through its combat allies. Otherwise, the Russian armed military units, which will be insufficient in the face of the support to Ukraine, will remain incomplete both in quality and quantity in the face of Ukraine, which is half owned by other supported countries. The resentment that this situation will create will lead to irreversible situations on behalf of Russia. The war process, which has shown a bad period in every sense on behalf of Russia, is predicted to become more and more dangerous. At this time, when there is a lot of criticism of the Russian government and the Kremlin, the decisions that Russian President Vladimir Putin will take are a matter of curiosity. Recently, in the Ukrainian-Russian war, Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, who stood out as an ally of Russia, blamed the Russian defense minister for all the failures taken and shown at the front. This situation, which was approved by another ally, caused interesting repercussions both in Russia and around the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin is also expected to impose a number of sanctions on the Russian defense minister. This situation stands out as one of the decisions that will change the course of the Russian-Ukrainian war and cause it to take a different state. Russia, whose military power in the region is showing increasing weakness, is also expected to experience difficulties in the future. Russia had stated that it was preparing to launch an attack on Ukraine with the Moscow time that is valid on February 24, 2022. Russian soldiers, acting in a controlled manner by Russian President Vladimir Putin, first of all closed the entrance zone of Ukraine. In addition, Russian soldiers have taken videos together with long-range weapons and heavy tanks, shooting videos on social media platforms in Ukraine, which is expected to be occupied in a short time, and have almost given an intimidation. This according to the data received by the Ukrainian side. It was announced that 32,000 Russian soldiers have lost their lives since February 24, 2022. On the other hand, Ukrainian women and children in Ukraine were forced to emigrate to other countries. At the same time, the infrastructure of Ukraine could not withstand Russia's heavy high-capacity missiles and, unfortunately, collapsed. After this radical decision taken by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who aims to take Ukraine parcel by parcel, was condemned by the leaders of many countries with harsh language. In fact, it should be especially stated that in many countries, Russian brands and Russian stores have been completely closed. The countries decided to cancel flights to Russia completely on the issue of sanctions against Russia. However, both NATO countries and the United States have stated that in response to Russia's military buildup, forces should be joined with Ukraine. Quite big crises have occurred between NATO countries, which have stated that they will decisively help Ukraine in the face of Russian President Vladimir Putin. After Russia's attack on Ukraine, many European Union countries have become almost the only heart for Ukraine. In addition, it should be especially stated that the pro-war attitude of Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as his radical decision, has unfortunately prepared the ground for the occurrence of quite large internal upheavals in Russia. On the other hand, the Russian people did not want to support the pro-war Putin. Vladimir Putin should immediately abandon this decision. However, it was broadcast on news channels that the Russian people supported Ukraine by unfurling banners saying no to the war. But Russia has deployed Russian security forces to suppress these internal disturbances. The demonstrators failed to stop Vladimir Putin. At the White House in the United States, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki made bombshell statements about the United States' attitude to Ukraine during a press conference. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that there is a possibility that Ukraine could be invaded by Russia at any moment in the Ukraine crisis, which has the effect of a bomb on the agenda. On the other hand, against the referendum move in Russia, how will Ukrainian President Zelensky follow the path together with the Ukrainian army? Which countries will press the button to get the necessary support against Russia's referendum step in the future? What important meetings will Ukrainian President Zelensky take part in particular? It should be stated that Ukrainian President Zelensky is very interested in what topics he will focus on and what plans he will make about these issues at important meetings. According to other information received, if we look at the table in more detail, Russian President Vladimir Putin may put into operation a plan to freeze the war by signing radical decisions to consolidate control over the territory of Ukraine. In addition, Russia was very confused by the referendum move. Shortly after Russia's referendum move, quite large crises occurred in the town of Donetsk. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to be informed of the developments at the speed of light.